First, god damn it, Erin. Vegetables, you know me too well. And, oh my god, no sauce. Not cool. Okay. Um, okay, firstly, I'd like to say, okay, one, it's like 4:30 in the morning, so I gotta be quiet. Okay, so firstly, I only pretty recently considered myself a feminist, and, I wanted to bring up why it's so difficult to talk about feminism without getting, like, scoffs of contempt or, like, malicious laughter, and I find, like, this happens a lot. It seems like it's impossible to talk about this stuff when people trivialize it and treat it as an overreaction. Um, so I'm pretty much under the impression now that the only way to talk about feminism with someone who isn't a feminist is to not say the word feminism. And wow, I've said feminism a lot so far, but okay. Okay, the next part. To go off what you guys were talking about, I found this video discussing the idea of the straw feminist, um, which is how this image has been created of feminists who like hate men, freak out about the small things that are besides the point, and actually ignore the problems of sexism that are still around. These feminist characters, by focusing on the most like meaningless things, they come across as crazy, and I'm talking about like in the media and in television. And often this character is part of a world where like misogyny and sexism don't exist. Um, so the feminist character comes across as like very over the top and hateful and like pretty stupid, and not in touch with the reality of that world. Um, and no one wants to be associated with that image. So I totally understand that view as well. Okay, my next part, kind of besides the point, but still like I'm relating it to feminism and sexism, is that in my horror and terror class we learned about witches, which I didn't really know much about. So I'm going to share ideas that were discussed by my professor in my class, which I hope was okay with that because it's all from class. Yeah, how these sexist and misogynist ideas, even from like way back then, are still like kind of entrenched in our culture, just like in different, more subtle ways. Obviously, I'm not saying no, and you don't think people are witches anymore. You guys know what I mean. It's just there's still like some of the same ideas. So there we go. And yeah, just some interesting ways you could be accused of being a witch. Okay, you could be accused of being a witch if your husband was infertile, if he couldn't get an erection, which is, or if he came prematurely. And the witches didn't make them impotent; they just gave the illusion, or it was called glamour, that they were. So many of these ideas about the fear of a woman's sexuality and the unfair power of that sexuality still persist today. And also, witches were thought to. Another thing was collect male organs in large quantities and put them into birds' nests because they were also the thieves of genitalia. So I just thought that was wow. Okay. Also, so the document that circulated these ideas was called the Malleus, which came up the Catholic Church had a part in making. So here's just like some quotes from the Malleus because I was reading it for class. About the many lusts of men lead them into one sin, but the lust of a woman leads them into all sins. For the root of all women's vices is avarice. A woman either loves or hates. There is no third grade, and the tears of women are a deception, for they may spring from true grief, or they may be a snare. When a woman thinks alone, she is evil. And these ideas are still like a little bit entrenched in our culture that like women are very passive aggressive bitches who have to be underhanded to get what they want. But although in this time they had no rights, so it was like pretty much the only defense. Also, a lot of women were accused of witchcraft, who were well-off widowers who like had their own property. So when they were accused, their property was taken from them, which is bullshit. And since witch trials were expensive, these were used to help further fund them. So, yeah, as Andy pointed out, yeah, absolutely batshit crazy, some of this stuff. For example, a woman can be accused of having sex with the devil at any time because they might just be invisible. Because if they were witches and that meant they were having sex with the devil. Keeps going. There's also this part on how women are intellectually like children, which makes them more prone to renounce their faith and give in to the devil's temptation. And because how Eve was formed from a rib that curved away from Adam, that meant that through this defect she was an imperfect animal and always deceived. And so yeah, obviously Eve is referenced. This is also something we talked about a lot this year, is that the unmaternal woman being seen as pretty much the worst offense and unnatural, etc. So in the Malleus, they have this idea that midwives sometimes kill children or they offer them to devils. And so no need to expand on that one. there's a lot of issues of gynophobia involved, which this is also like stuff we learned in my class, which is I'm sure was painfully obvious by the quotes, which is something we still see today in like diluted forms. Also, it was another interesting look at the Madonna horror dichotomy because since women were perceived as weak and impressionable and easily given into the temptations of the body, and were feeble in the mind and the body, they were either swayed by the devil and corrupted, or if they were able to resist, then they were symbols of strength and virtue and holiness, like the Virgin Mary. Because, and I'm quoting Malleus again, they knew no moderation in goodness or vice, and were therefore able to reach the greatest heights and lowest depths of goodness and vice. So, excellent read, the Malleus. Also, as a side note today, in class we learned the precise method, step by step, of becoming a werewolf. You guys ever interested? And it involved smearing paste with a mixture of herbs and opium all over your body, within like a circle, and then dancing or being high on opium for a while, and then waking up in your werewolf. Yeah, I'll see you guys. Proverbial Wumpus.